Back in 2021, Elgato changed the streaming game and dropped one of the best webcams in the market, the Elgato Facecam. When the Facecam was first announced, so many creators praised just how good it was, and for the past 2.5 years, honestly, many competitors have tried to take down the king, but they couldn't, including the likes of Logitech, Razer, and many more. What the Facecam first brought to the game was honestly outstanding. It was a 24mm equivalent lens with a Sony CMOS sensor that shot uncompressed 1080-60. Now, back in 2021, that was game changing because many creators were questioning if they even needed a DSLR mirrorless camera, given just how good it was. Now, in fact, Elgato provided software that gave users more manual adjustments similar to a real camera, and that was something that no competitor did back in 2021. If you look at things like Logitech, and you had to go deep into Windows settings just to get that. But now it's 2024, and things have changed. And the question is the Facecam still king? Because the gap between competition has definitely shrunk down. This is the Elgato Facecam Mk2, and honestly, the king is back. Starting at $149.99, the Elgato Facecam Mk2 came out swinging not only with a great price, but there was just a small enough feature set of upgrades that make the hugest of results. The Mk2 is packed with a lot of small changes, but those small changes make great strides. So let's take a look. Welcome to the Mk2. Like Tony Stark learning from his designs and improving with each suit built, Elgato looked at what was working and what needed improvement for the next go around. So let's talk about what stayed the same and what changed. Cue the cool little table over here. Actually, it should be better over here. So what stayed the same? Well, both the Facecam and the Mk2 still shoot at 1080-60 frames per second. They still maintain a fixed focus system, which is about 11.8 inches to about 47 inches. They still also have an aperture of 2.4 to allow a lot of light in. And they still use the Sony CMOS Starvis sensor. Now, both are still USB 3.0 with a Type-C in the back, and they come with Type-A on the front to connect to your computer. And they both have onboard storage for your settings. They still shoot in compressed and uncompressed formats. Preferably the uncompressed format is the best. But that's the similarities, right? Let's talk about what's changed. You go from a Facecam having an 82-degree viewing angle to an 84 degrees to get a little bit of wider shot. Another big key difference is the Mk2 is actually backwards compatible via USB 2.0. And what they carried over from the Facecam Pro, they actually built it in with the Facecam Mk2, which is going to be that pan and tilt zoom where you could have a digital zoom and have it be able to cross range or even follow focus depending on your setup. Another thing that's majorly different is the HDR capabilities and what I like to call the color science, or what they say is the color image algorithm with Mk2. Now, the differences on paper seem small, but let's actually explore the two side by side so you can compare. And for this test, I wanted to be as equivalent as possible, right? So I shot 1080p, 60 frames, same ISO, same aperture, same white balance, and same shutter speed. In low light settings, the Mk2 just does a phenomenal job capturing more light for your subject, where the Facecam original just doesn't. And when you're looking at a very underexposed situation with the Facecam, it's not as underexposed with the Mk2. Now in high light settings, the Facecam really does have a hard time dealing with highlights, and you can see where overexposure occurs, whereas in the same spots through the Mk2, it is able to compensate and reduce the highlights so you don't get that same overexposure, and just gives you a well-rounded image for your subject. Now, other things that I noticed is that the contrast of shadows and blacks differ dramatically between the two. Even though both cameras are still the same contrast settings and saturation settings, I feel like the Facecam, the original, is just a little bit harsher on your saturations and your shadows and contrast, whereas the Mk2 kind of gives you more of a flat image feel. And I think that people who are accustomed to light and color profiles in OBS, like are playing with LUTs, are really going to shine with the Mk2. Some of the things that I noticed that the Mk2 doesn't do just quite as well is with background noise. Now, I'm a photographer by trade, so for me, I really do pixel peep and look at stuff like that. And if you don't know what noise is, it's artifacting is, just think of when you're looking at like a movie reel or something like that. You see like grain, almost like that Channel 3 back when you were playing like a Super Nintendo. You see that kind of fuzz in the background, and especially at harsh lighting or darkened light areas. And partially it's because it's a smaller sensor, where typically on like a mirrorless camera like a APS-C or a crop sensor camera versus a full frame camera, you wouldn't see it as much at a lower ISO. You still see it heavily because of the smaller sensors in these cameras. So enough of me jabbering. Let's actually look at some fuller images of, let's actually do a full test. So I'm going to take a little bit more behind the scenes of my setup so you can see just what I do to test it and how I tested these cameras. Start recording. Okay. I have every one of my devices. I have my Mac Studio with the Cam Link recording at indistinguishable. I have my MacBook Pro with the Mk2 recording at indistinguishable. And I got my Windows laptop back there recording on the original Facecam indistinguishable setting, whatever. And I have them also, they're going uncompressed. The Elgato, the Facecam, the first one, I think works better with Windows than the Facecam Mk2. So I got those two going. And we're going to show you in my typical like recording / streaming environment how it looks. So let's fix the lights. So we're going to get my lights down to blue. So this is typically how I get this set up. So you can see this is my Z30 just with the natural light, how it captures my scene. So I got my key lights going. You can see how the different cameras are setting up. Now I'm going to put my main light on. Okay, I got my main dome light, again the Amaran 60X. I got that going at about 35%. Shut this door a little bit. Now you can see here where like my blue overheads are not as strong. So what I'm going to do is grab my phone and I'm going to turn on an accent light. So hold on. There, perfect. So now there's a little bit more of an accent light there. I could play around with a little bit, but let me see if I could do this without messing up. Okay, so here's my monstrosity of a setup to test each of these cameras. Let's see how they go. So settings are across the board. So I have my Nikon Z6 over here, right? And I have a 24mm lens that has a viewing angle of about 80 degrees, which is going to be similar to what these are, since these are both 24mm equivalents with about an 82 to an 84 inch or 84 degree viewing angle. So that way, and I have them about approximately, real quick here, the same distance from each other. So you can see where the sensors are to get a more accurate representation of how it looks. Other things to note is that they're all shooting at 1/60th of a second for shutter speed. ISO is at about 150 or as close as they could get to 150. And aperture is the same. So 2.4, 2.4, and then that's like a 2.5. Just because that's the closest it could get. So I have the ultimate comparison of the original OG, which started at like $200, which now retails for $130. The Mark II, which starts at $150, and a $2,000 plus body and lens kit. Let's go. One of the biggest things that I notice from the first version to the second version is the fact that the amount of colors and oversaturation versus like over contrast and even some of the exposures are not just the same. To me, the Mark II looks just as good and very equivalent to my mirrorless setup. Like again, this is a $2,000 kit that I'm using. And apples to apples almost, even though it's like apples, it really is apples to oranges. Like, don't mind this little space right here. This is actually the prompter you're seeing because of the viewing angle. But like even looking at it, the biggest differences between the Mark II and the Nikon Z6 is the fact that you're probably getting more noise in the Mark II. Where like if you look at my shadows and the background, you see a lot more speckle and stuff like that. That's like almost like it's almost like if you remember gaming with channel 3 and you had that R fuzz, you get some of that in the background. Whereas with the Nikon Z6 and even my Z30, you don't get that. And partially it's because of the size of the sensor. This is a full frame sensor you're looking at right here, whereas this is like tiny in comparison to it. Like, let me see if I can put a graphic here showing you the difference of the image sizes of a CMOS sensor versus a full frame sensor. Overall, comparing the images, like, honestly, like, I'm actually impressed. I'm impressed with the difference from the original version to the Mark II. Like, it is night and day. Where I think that I may not even have to use like a Z6 or even my Z30 for any more setups. Like, I used to rock maybe the Z30 and this Facecam, but like this almost perfectly matches together. And now, if I really want to go like all out, I could bust out my Z6, my Z30, and the Mark II as like my 1, 2, 3 cameras. But honestly, between the Mark II and the Z6, they are identical almost. Obviously, there's going to be some things I have to do as far as like color change, like not color change, but like playing with a little bit of adjustments. But like it's the color science that the Mark II is hitting is at Nikon levels. And when you look at the big three, like the Canons, the Sonys, and the Nikons, the color science has always been what Nikon got right. Canon and Sony do good, but Sony's big thing is autofocus. Canon is autofocus as well, and their AI, but Nikon had the color science and the colors and the look and the feel and the vibe, and the Mark II just hits it, in my personal opinion, that I am 100% running the Mark II from now on. I'm going to still keep the Mark I as maybe like a third camera or a backup camera, but whereas I thought initially I would be using like a kind of like a field space with the GoPro. Like, to me, the GoPro and the Facecam Mark I are neck to neck based on the color science and how it handles low light. Whereas, like, if I turn off the lights here, you would see immediately just like the difference. Here, check this out. All you're getting right now is a sliver of natural light. Like, here, let me pull up my other camera. Right now, you're just getting a sliver of natural light coming through my window. And then you have the blue and like the screens. That's all the light I'm getting in this view right now. Look at the difference between the Facecam, the original, the Mark II, and my Nikon Z30. Like, it's kind of crazy how they each handle. Like, you could really see the noise factor, like that artifact and like dust in the image in the webcams, whereas you don't see it as much with the mirrorless camera. But for how it's absorbing that light, it's kind of insane. So what do you think? At the end of the day, is Elgato and their Facecam lineup still the king of webcams? Or are they about to be dethroned? Did they not make enough change? In my personal opinion, I think if you're looking to get a webcam and you want something that's close to a DSLR but you don't have a lot of funds, the Facecam is the lineup to go with. And the Mark II, I would say hands down, is probably the better bang for your buck than with the original Facecam. Just because it's only like $30 more, and you get so much more to play with, and a webcam like what you would do with a real camera. Now, does this take out my $700, my $1,000, my $3,000 setup? No, not yet. But it's damn near close, and that's half the battle, to be honest with me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more content. If you gotten this far, can you leave me like a thumbs up? Actually, no, I take that back. If you got this far, I want you to leave like a race car emoji, that you were able to survive the long endurance race and get to the end. I'll shout you out in my next video if you do. Otherwise, I'm Joe. This has been Matzo Excel. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. I forgot what to say. Oh my God, I forgot the catch line. Shampoo is better. No, conditioner is better. Shampoo is better. No. I'm not going to really bang these over you. Am I insane?